So if we think about credibility, this is really about, I think, what Duncan was just saying about setting yourself apart, how you build that credibility, how you tell that story, how you can influence and shape procurements and markets as they come out. In Go for Growth, we have built, one of the first things we did was build case studies and testimonials to be able to say to both businesses coming into the programme and public sector organisations who wanted to work with us that this is what we do, this is how we do it, and actually moreover, here are some of the early results of that. It can be a real minefield actually though, building credibility. And some of our some of the public sector clients, and especially in the NHS, have said actually it can be really good if you have you can showcase who you've worked for before those references. But I wanted to ask Duncan if there were any advice or any good examples that you've seen during your career about how people have built their credibility up. You've just given us one really good one actually from enforcement agencies. Or perhaps you could tell us about how, if you ask for case studies in a procurement in YPO, how you might use them and why they can be important.
Yeah, I think the first thing around building credibility, Jill, is actually, is doing your research and understanding how the public sector operates, and understanding, where do you want to deliver. You may be a small business in Wakefield, but actually you've got the ability to deliver in the Yorkshire and Humber region. So doing your research and understanding how the public sector works, understanding who the key players are, who the key organisations are, I think that's really, really important, because if you understand who they are, how those organisations put their opportunities out to market, that will allow you to be on the front foot. So my first sort of piece of advice would be register for opportunities. That may be through the council's website, on their supplier portals, it may be on some of their e-procurement tools. So if you contact the organisations that you're interested in working for and with, they will tell you how to do that. I think in terms of case studies are really, really good way of suppliers earning, shall we say, extra points in the tender. So you'll see on all scoring grids within tenders, and it may be a 1 to 5 scoring grid, that 3 is satisfactory and you can deliver, but to score, points 4 and 5, it's the extra evidence against the criteria. Now, my advice on case studies is actually use those to your advantage. Use your case study to deliver a message that's in tune with the organisation that's putting the contract out there. So if it was a local authority, a local council who's got a bid out there, try and weave your case study around what the local council is interested in, what it's after. The other thing you can do as well is, find out who the local economic development team are, because obviously local economic development teams are interested in supporting sort of local businesses, things like that. And I think by using those tools, that allows you to sort of use those case studies, use those testimonials to deliver that value add. I talked earlier about enforcement agencies and safeguarding and where English isn't the first language. We've got another solution at YPO which is around soft FM services. It's a dynamic purchasing system which allows us to support suppliers coming onto the contract at any time through the lifespan of that. And a number of the organisations on there are small businesses based within local areas. They may be providing cleaning services, painting and decorating type services. And what they're doing is they're actually telling a story of some of their volunteering that they do. Some small business owners are school governors, things like that. So actually giving something back to the community through volunteering, or even supporting apprentices, things like that. All that type of stuff is good case study material that demonstrates a commitment and a credibility. You've got on screen their awards. If there's an opportunity to enter awards as well, that can give you good credibility. Can also be a good thing to put into a case study to support that tender.
Yeah, no, and I think there's something powerful about the independence of that as well, isn't there? That if you've entered an award, you will have been independently verified almost, and deemed to be worthy of an award. Even a shortlist is really great. And there is something having gone through the process, actually, when you're writing down the things that you're good at for an award, it reminds you as a business of that story about, you know, why you're good, how you're good, and what you're good at. And that in itself is a really great process to go through. Just before we move on to the next slide, the financial credibility can often be a thing that is scary for small businesses. In terms of, you know, what does it mean? We talk a lot to businesses about making sure that you look at opportunities that are the right size for you. So think about the size of the opportunity versus the size of your business. And it might be that actually working in collaboration with somebody else or in partnership with someone else might be the right way to approach a particular opportunity of a particular size. But am I right in thinking, Duncan, that the financial credibility at its most basic level really is an assuredness for the public sector that there is enough financial stability for the provider to be able to provide the goods or services throughout the life of the contract? This isn't meant to be tripping anyone up. It's really just about knowing that it can happen.
Oh, absolutely. You know, whatever the size of the contract that we're putting out to the market, you know, whether it's a £5,000 contract or it's a £5 million contract or even, you know, a £50 million contract, it's making sure that the structure of that contract supports a viable and robust supply chain. So again, the easiest way to sort of example that, if the contract, you know, has the capacity to support 100 businesses and it's quite low risk delivery of goods and services, you know, we want 100 businesses on that contract. You know, we're assessing, is the supply, you know, is it a monopoly situation? Is there only one key supplier? We all saw what happened when Carillion went bust, and there's probably a logical argument to say that, you know, there was too many eggs in that one basket. So what we're trying to do there is to spread the risk across the supply base to make sure that we can support those businesses, but equally to make sure that, you know, as a procurer or, you know, from a contract management side, that we're not actually at risk of that supplier or suppliers going, you know, belly up. So it's not there to stop organisations getting on board, it's there to manage that risk. And currently at the moment, we've all seen what's going on in the retail energy market with energy suppliers unfortunately going out of business because of the impact of pricing. You know, we don't want to see that across the public sector contracts. So financial credibility is all about, as you said there, Jill, is making sure that we can support those organisations. We're always concerned about the percentage of turnover to a contract. You know, so if you are a supplier to YPO and you rely 100% on that contract, there's significant risk there when that contract comes up for renewal that if you don't win that business, you could potentially go out of business. So we wouldn't want to be the organisation that's responsible for putting you out of business. So therefore we need to structure that contract in a way that, you know, spreads that risk. So it is all about risk management.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Duncan. That makes absolute sense and really helpful advice, I think, for SMEs and VCSEs. So our last slide before we get on to next steps and Q&A.